At a meeting I had this past week, I met a woman who shared a recent story from her personal life. It seems that her husband will be celebrating his 60th birthday in a couple of months. And the couple's 2 daughters have been strategically planning a surprise party for him in Las Vegas, where one of their daughters lives. Everyone involved has been sworn to secrecy. And most things are in place, including the purchase of the airline tickets for the trip from Wisconsin to Nevada. The only problem is that when you purchase a ticket for someone, you have to use their name on the ticket. And then their name appears in the airline schedule. Apparently, this gentleman does a lot of travel for his company, and when he went online to check his schedule for the upcoming months for planning purposes, he saw that he has tickets for a flight around his birthday to Las Vegas, and he didn't understand why. The people did a pretty good job of keeping things quiet, but the computer didn't have the same safeguards, and the secret is no longer a secret. His wife had to tell him the whole story with the promise that he would keep it a secret from the daughters and act surprised when the events happened in a couple of months. It's hard to keep a secret. Ask a group of people to keep a secret, and you're simply looking for trouble. More than likely, somebody will let it out, especially if the secret is amazing or wonderful or shocking. People are not very good, as a whole, of being able to keep a secret for very long. Well, in our gospel lesson for today, Simon Peter is the first disciple to recognize that Jesus is the Messiah. Or at least, he's the first given credit for speaking these words of confession. He's the first to announce that this man he knows so well is the one anointed by God, the Messiah, sent to deliver Israel from bondage. Peter says as much when Jesus asked him point blank, "Who do you say that I am?" And Peter's answer marks him as a star student, and he receives his reward. Jesus promises to build his church upon the rock foundation of his faith. He gives Peter some executive authority, and he promises to support him. Now, this is a huge development in the life and faith of the disciples. Now should be the time to call in the media. Get out the word. Let everybody know that the Messiah has come and is setting up his organization. But if Jesus is to be our guide, and certainly we in the church would support the idea that Jesus would be our guide, then apparently it's not the time for press releases, for photo opportunities, and for media soundbites. Far from it. Did you notice the ending of today's gospel? Here it is again. Jesus sternly ordered the disciples not to tell anyone that he was the Messiah. Nobody, not a single soul. Mum's the word. Forget the idea of publicity. Keep it a secret. But why? Why is Jesus intent on his being a Messiah a secret? Why not let it out? And now that he has admitted who he is, and the disciples all know it, does he really think the secret can be kept? Won't it travel from mouth to mouth and ear to ear with great speed? Certainly the voices then ask, "Have you heard?" And those voices will multiply rapidly across the land. Well, what's so interesting is that it's not just this once that Jesus wants his identity to stay a secret. Repeatedly, throughout the Gospels, he tries to keep from becoming the talk of whatever town he's in. Yet when he performs such deeds as healing the sick, raising the dead, feeding the hungry, when he fulfills the messianic job description, how are people expected to keep his identity to themselves? And And why should they? What he does in one community after another is a publicist's dream. The guy's got the makings of a star. He's going to be big, really big. Well, there's actually a name for everything Jesus does in an effort to pass unrecognized for who he is. And students of the Bible often call this the Messianic secret. But what's behind the Messianic secret? Well, from my memory of my days in seminary, the most convincing explanation for me was that Jesus does not want to be acknowledged as Messiah outside of his death and resurrection. Only in the light of those events can people begin to recognize what his being the Messiah really means. If they hear that he is the Messiah before he even gets to the cross, then they are sure to misunderstand him. And since all these things that we're talking about now, including St. Peter's confession in today's gospel, take place before the crucifixion and resurrection, now is not the best time to let people in on the secret. For without a view from the cross and the empty tomb, the confession has little meaning. Rather than being a Messiah of sacrifice and triumph, they might see him as someone who has come to solve all their problems, Mr. Fix-It from on high. Rather than recognizing him as the one who calls them to their own deaths and resurrections, the crowds are likely to view him as a Messiah sent to boost their egos, to make their lives more comfortable. With the Messianic secret theory, the idea is that Jesus does not want his ministry to be seen in the wrong light. And for this reason, he prefers that only his immediate circle know that he is the one sent from God. This opportunity, or the opportunity, will come later for them to announce that he is the Messiah. The secret is not meant to be a secret forever, but that opportunity will come once the crucifixion takes place and he returns from death. This idea of the Messianic secret may help us understand what's going on in this gospel. Why Jesus sometimes behaves in a way that seems incomprehensible. But the Messianic secret is more than that, for it has a contemporary application as well. Certainly in Jesus' time, there were people who had in their own minds a clear picture of what they understood and wanted and expected the Messiah to be for them. And Jesus really didn't always fit into that picture. But things aren't all that different today. There are people today who have a clear picture of what they understand and want and expect the Messiah to be for them. And Jesus' reality doesn't always fit that picture either. We expect a Messiah different from the one sent to us. We expect someone who saves us easily and asks nothing from us. Most of us want a Jesus who doesn't die, or at least doesn't expect us to follow him in doing so. While we hope for something easy, what the gospel offers is something of a challenge. The gospel demands that we welcome no Jesus without the cross. We welcome no Jesus who remains dead. We accept no easy Messiah whose hands remain unwounded. And when we welcome this Jesus who died and rose again and who challenges us with the call to suffer for the sake of the world just as he suffered, then we have the joyful task of doing the opposite of what Jesus told his disciples to do in our gospel reading. When we have welcomed the crucified and risen Lord into our midst, then we are called to keep this secret no longer a secret. The world, the one where we spend our days and our nights, still waits for him. The world is dying to meet him through us. It's time to let go of the secret so all may know the joy we feel in knowing that Jesus is truly the Messiah, the Son of the living God.